Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 6 November 2017. Coming to you with a video type that I don't do enough of. I'm going to call this a long-term review of a relatively new to market knife. In fact, I think this year, this spring. This is the Benchmade 781 Anthem. And if you remember, back in May, I believe, maybe early June, I did a first impressions video of this knife, or an initial review, and the knife I reviewed at that time was the first production run Benchmade Anthem, and it was a generally glowing review, especially given the fact that the Anthem, well, it has several pretty high bars it needs to clear, at least in my eyes. First of all, it's a Benchmade knife that costs just over $400. A blue class Benchmade that costs just over $400. That's a pretty high bar, right? Second, for me, it's an integral construction titanium framed knife. And you've heard me say it before, I will say it again. I believe the integral titanium knife handle in a folding knife is an overpriced solution in search of a problem. In fact, it's a solution that causes more problems than it solves. So there's a pretty high bar. It's got to get over that that bias held by me. Third, it runs on ball bearings. So it's a $415 knife, which is a really expensive Benchmade. In fact, I think the most expensive blue class folding Benchmade ever made. It is an integral titanium handle, and it's on ball bearings. Okay, so those are all the three reasons why I should dislike this knife and give it a scathing review. However, the knife that I had in front of the camera in May or June of this year was a first production run knife sent to me for review by Derek Bonin, Knife Ship Free. That knife ended up being carried, reviewed, sharpened, and then when I went to Escanaba in June, I took that knife back and gave it to Derek, and it's pretty much been in his pocket ever since. In fact, when I visited him again in mid-September, it was still in his pocket, and it was showing some pocket wear. He cannot put the thing down. Yeah. And frankly, I don't blame him. I liked the knife so much that after I gave Derek's back to him, I missed it and called Tyler at Knife Ship Free and had him send me one. Now this is my knife, and I've had it since late June. Notice it is not a first production run knife. This is out of the second batch of Anthems. No first production run etch, and there are a couple other differences too. First of all, the color of the anodization is more pewter and less bronze. It has less of a gold cast to it, which I believe will make it wear a little more nicely than those first ones. They were very bronzy. They had a lot of gold in that ano. Also, notice the color and texture of the clip versus the handle. If you remember my initial review, and really any video you've seen of a first production run knife, the handle appears to be more polished, less chalky, and much lighter in hue than the clip, which is more chalky and darker. On this second batch, the non-first production run knives, they matched it really, really well. And so maybe they polished the clips a little more, and then I think backing off that gold in the ano recipe made the two finishes of those two pieces of titanium match each other much better. It always drew my eye when I looked at the clip side of those first production Anthems. This one, the clip kind of disappears. So good job, guys. Made a couple changes from first production to general production that needed to be made, and this makes this a much better knife. So let's talk about the knife in general now. Refreshing our memories, the blade on the Anthem is of CPM 20 CV steel. That's an old Latrobe recipe, now owned by Crucible. Not sure, which plant it's made in, but it's, it's a couple steps in technology old particle metallurgy steel. The same chemical recipe as M390 or CTS 204P, just not as state of the art in its formation process. Now, a lot of people have had problems with 20 CV being a little chippy, and frankly, I own 2 knives in this blade steel from Benchmade. I don't find that to be true as heat treated by Benchmade. In fact, I've been carrying this knife, let's see, a little over 4 months. And like Derek, I can't seem to get the doggone thing out of my pocket. And I sharpened this, by my normal procedure, near mirror polished edge, 17 degrees per side secondary bevel with a tiny 20-degree micro bevel. I sharpened this 4 months ago, and it's probably been in my pocket, I don't know, 25% of the days I've had it. So it's cut a lot of cardboard, opened a lot of boxes with sticky packing tape, which is a sneaky edge killer, in case you don't know. Only stropping, and I've probably re-stropped this knife 3 times since I've sharpened it, and here's how sharp it still is. If you heard that, there's one catch right in the belly, right there. Right there. Now, it's a catch, but it's just a change of pitch going through the paper. It still goes through phone book paper, hilt to tip. And it still push cuts phone book paper rather well, except in that dull spot. Even in the dull spot, it push cuts. That needs a little more help getting started. So I'm pretty happy. I don't notice any microchipping. Even that spot that sounds like a catch, it's more of a blunt spot than it is a microchip or a roll. So my mileage on 20 CV does not seem to match what I hear about it, at least from other manufacturers. As usual, and one of the most unheralded qualities about Benchmade is that steel for steel, knife for knife, nobody in the production knife world heat treats steel for a knife blade as well as Benchmade. I mean, nobody. And by the way, don't we buy knives so they'll cut stuff effectively with high performance over a great length of time? That's why we spend the money we spend for a Benchmade. And the Anthem is carrying that banner well, okay? Blade shape is like a super Sebenza-like shape, right? I mean, compared to a clip point Sebenza 21, a little different in scale, but the envelope of that blade shape is doggone near identical, and you're not going to hear me complain about it. Yes, some YouTube reviewer called this the world's best production folding pocket knife. Oh, that was me. So if Benchmade's going to emulate that blade in its flagship knife, you go, guys. And it just performs amazingly. It's just the right size for many of us. 3.5 inches of blade, 4 5/8 inches of handle. It just handles so nicely in any grip you want to use it in, especially that overhand pinch grip. Just, right where the tip is, it's right where you expect it to be. Superb knife in hand. appearance-wise, I still love it. You might say the chevron pattern is that it dates the knife a little bit, and it might be looking a little dated at this point. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it does. But you know, the chevron pattern as a shape, a geometric shape in artwork and design, has been around a lot longer than 2017. I imagine it'll be around for a long time after. I'm noticing zero blade play with zero pivot adjustment after I initially took the knife apart, cleaned it, oiled it, and then Loctited the pivot. So my concerns about pivot loosening in this non-restrained female pivot do not seem to bear out. Now, my threads felt nice and closely fit on this knife, more so than they did on the first production run knife. You know, maybe that's something that got addressed also after the first production run. You'll remember that from my review of Derek's knife. Blade centering, it's not perfect, but it's awfully doggone close. Remember, guys, you get one shot at this with an integral. You know, having two opposing bearing surfaces in that handle that are exactly parallel and pointing down the center of that knife, the blade well. Good luck. I mean, good luck having that happen every time. But it's pretty close. I mean, it's not a blade that I look at and go, ooh, that's off center. And I've looked at several of these. I've sharpened, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 of them. And, you know, Derek's first production run knife was off more than a little, and that's probably the worst one I've seen. So most of them are pretty good. How's that new axis lock working? Well, like butter. You know, all axis locks move really smoothly if we use the thumb and forefinger. But the key is, do they break in so that one side use is really smooth? I was a little concerned about that with that steel flange on a titanium track, and no issues, man. I mean, it's like butter. I get no hanging up of that axis lock whatsoever. It never catches. I don't know, there's maybe 1 million cycles on that blade, but it's broken in absolutely perfectly. There is no more fun knife to play with I've ever held in this Anthem. And I love its noises. Yeah, I got nothing here, guys. Let's talk about a criticism that I really didn't level against the knife, but a lot of guys have. This pocket clip. You guys know I believe that the best clip ever put on a Benchmade is the split arrow. You know, for my preference, specifically the Parkerized split arrow. This is the same shape clip, except it doesn't have the slot going down the middle, and it's, you know, milled titanium. A couple things people complain about, and one of these is here's what I don't understand. Guys think that a big value adder on a knife is a fully milled titanium clip. Well, that's great, except they don't work that well. They don't have very much range of motion under spring tension. You know, they're hard to move. Well, so how do you make that easy to get in and out of your pocket then? Well, you have to leave a gap. You got to leave a gap between, there you can see it, between the handle and the point, you know, the pinch point of the clip. Now mine has a little less gap than it did when it was new. I took it off, bent it, got it to where I want it. And as it sits right now, it is one hand insertable into all my pants, and it catches the pocket seam and won't let the knife come out. unless you're pulling it out with that pinch point. So I dare say this fully milled titanium penis clip is performing just as well as the most functionally perfect pocket clip known to man. So, you can not like the way it looks. You can say that your eye doesn't really get the small chevron pattern against the large chevron pattern. Okay. But once you get it adjusted right for you, it's a fully milled titanium clip that actually works with one hand in and out. So you're not going to hear me say it's a bad clip. Oh, here's the thing that does bother some people, Nick Shabazz. The 3-hole pattern on the dedicated Anthem clip is a different 3-hole pattern than all other Benchmade clips. Yeah. And I actually thought, a polished split arrow might be a better carry clip. It would kind of go with the pivot. It would match the screws. And I could save, not because I don't like it, but I could just save my my fully milled bronze anodized clip, for collectability. Well, guess what? If you want to get one of the other Benchmade clips to work, you're going to have to enlarge the holes just a bit. Well, so what? Do we all own drills? If you wanted to do that, do it. It's not going to make a big difference. But I kind of like that Benchmade made the whole pattern different. It's kind of like there are a few things about a Corvette that don't interchange with other Chevrolets. Well, there ought to be a few things about a $415 Benchmade Anthem that don't interchange with other Benchmades. I got no problem with that whatsoever. If you want to get your panties in a wad because the hole pattern's different, you go right ahead. I'll just keep loving my Anthem. Yeah. It is right now, as of today, 6 November 2017. As far as all my modern folders go, when I walk into my safe room in the morning and think about what knife I'm going to put in my pocket, this is the most difficult knife on my shelf to leave on my shelf. I make myself carry other knives than the Anthem almost every day, just so I'm spreading the wealth a little bit, just so I'm using the other knives in my collection. If my hand had its way, as of 6 November 2017, it would grab this knife and throw it in my pocket every day. I love its fidgetability. I love its cutting performance. I love its speed. Its 3.7 ounce weight. I mean, golly. The thing's just a work of art. It is an Anthem by Benchmade. That, my friends, is all. A hearty thumbs up, a recommendation of the most enthusiastic kind for all who are considering this knife. I love it. It's not perfect. Nothing conceived of man will ever be, by the way, just so you know. But it is awfully good. That's all for this one, my friends. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and my Anthem are sharp.